never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. I figured since it's Thursday and we're about to kick off the Sweet 16 in the world of college basketball, we would discuss that today here on the channel. I would still like to know your predictions as far as who you think will win the national championship in college basketball. And don't wait until the Monday of the national championship game when you've got a 50-50 chance of being right. But we have 4 games today and 4 games tomorrow. Today we have Tennessee versus Florida Atlantic, Kansas State versus Michigan State, UConn versus Arkansas, and UCLA versus Gonzaga. I believe I saw the other day this is Gonzaga's 8th straight trip to the Sweet 16, and there are still people out there who try to convince themselves Gonzaga is no good. And I don't know how on God's green earth it's possible to go to 8 straight Sweet 16s and not be any good. Coming up tomorrow, we have Alabama and San Diego State, Houston and Miami of Florida, Creighton versus Princeton, and Texas versus Xavier. Now, honestly, there aren't any true blue bloods left in this year's tournament. I guess if you want to consider UConn a blue blood, you can call them a blue blood, but really they haven't been relevant now in about 10 years up until this year. But the 90s and the first part of the 2000s, they were a blue blood, but they've kind of been on a downward spiral now for about 9 or 10 years up until this year. But outside of them, if you want to call them a blue blood, there aren't any other blue bloods in this year's tournament. Now, Michigan State by name, but that's only because people love their head coach, Tom Izzo. If it weren't for Tom Izzo, they wouldn't even be talked about. But Tom Izzo is an incredible coach as far as getting the best out of his players, because typically, usually most of the time, when the season starts, the first 3 or 4 weeks, Michigan State looks terrible. They look awful. And then as the season goes on, they get better and better and better. And come tournament time, if they get in until they get beat, they're a threat. But that's only because Tom Izzo is their coach. So for all the people out there that get tired of seeing the same old teams win it all in college basketball, you should enjoy this tournament now that we are down to the Sweet 16, because every team that's left has either never won a national title or they have not won one in a long time. So we know this year there will be no Duke, no North Carolina, no Kansas, no Kentucky, no Baylor. So it'll be somebody different, whoever it is. It'll either be a first-time champion or it'll be the first time in a long time champion. But when it comes to sports, it's funny because not just in college basketball, but in every single sport, there's always either one team or a few teams that dominate and seem like they win it every year, whatever the sport is. And you have people that either hate them because they hate seeing them win all the time, or they like them because they win all the time. You have some people that hate seeing the same teams win it every year, but you have some people that enjoy it because they get intrigued by a team being so dominant. For years and years and years, it was UConn in women's basketball. It seemed like the 90s and 2000s, every year it was either UConn or Tennessee on the women's side. And then when Pat Summitt retired, Tennessee went backwards and UConn continued to dominate. And anybody you talk to about women's college basketball either liked UConn because they were intrigued by their dominance and they were infatuated trying to figure out how a team can be that good for that long, or they hated UConn because they felt like UConn was destroying women's basketball because you knew in November what the outcome was going to be. By April, it was going to be UConn winning it all again. Well, now the women's side, you've got South Carolina. Ever since Dawn Staley took over, it seems like South Carolina either wins it or almost wins it every year. But every single sports fan in every sport either hates a team because they dominate or they love a team because they dominate. Any thoughts on the Sweet 16? Please feel free to let me know. Of course, the teams that win today will play again on Saturday, and the teams that win tomorrow will play again on Sunday, and then we'll be down to the Final Four. Homes for Our Troops is a publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since the 2004 inception, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. My wife dated a clown before she started going out with me. I had some pretty big shoes to fill. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them.